The morning was like any other on Good Morning America. Cheerful hosts, vibrant lights, and a studio full of energy. The day's headline guest was none other than Samuel L. Jackson, a Hollywood legend known for his boldness, wit, and unfiltered honesty. Across from him sat Michael Strahan, the show's charismatic co-host, famous for his easygoing charm and ability to keep interviews lighthearted. Viewers expected fun stories, laughter, and maybe a few memorable quotes from the star's latest project. But what no one expected was tension. From the very beginning, there was a strange undercurrent in the air, something subtle, like a spark waiting to catch fire. Samuel walked onto the stage with his usual confidence, but his expression hinted at something brewing beneath the surface. Strahan, ever the professional, greeted him warmly, unaware of the storm that was about to unfold. As the interview began, their chemistry felt slightly off. Samuel's answers were sharp, short, almost defensive. The crew noticed, and the audience sensed it too. Still, Strahan tried to keep things smooth, cracking jokes and steering the talk toward safer ground. But every smile from Samuel carried an edge, the kind that said he wasn't in the mood for small talk. By the time the second question rolled around, the tension had become undeniable. Something about the tone, the phrasing, or maybe the topic itself, it pushed Samuel over the line. The viewers at home couldn't quite tell what was happening yet, but they could feel it. This was not the friendly morning chat they had tuned in for. Something real was about to happen. Something unscripted, unpredictable, and unforgettable. The interview took a sharp turn when Michael Strahan brought up a question that seemed harmless, at least on the surface. With his signature grin, he asked Samuel about a recent controversy surrounding one of his film roles and the comments he'd made about Hollywood's treatment of veteran actors. But the moment the words left his mouth, the atmosphere changed. Samuel leaned back in his chair, his expression tightening. The friendly humor vanished from his eyes. For a brief second, there was silence, the kind that grips everyone watching. Then, in a low, deliberate tone, Samuel replied, "You really want to go there, huh?" The audience gave a nervous laugh, thinking it was part of the banter. But it wasn't. Michael tried to diffuse the moment, chuckling awkwardly and saying, "Just asking what the fans have been curious about." But Samuel wasn't smiling. His voice grew firmer. "Fans, or the network? There's a difference, Mike." The words cut through the air like a blade. Behind the cameras, producers exchanged panicked glances. Strahan, though visibly unsettled, stayed composed, trying to steer the topic back to the movie. But Samuel wasn't letting go. He began talking about double standards in the industry, how interviews often try to trap actors into giving headlines instead of honest answers. The tension was now undeniable. The once lively crowd sat frozen, sensing they were witnessing something that had slipped out of the show's control. Strahan looked toward the producers for a cue, but none came. The exchange was raw, unscripted, and impossible to cut away from. For the first time that morning, Good Morning America wasn't running on charm. It was running on pure, unpredictable truth. And everyone could feel it building toward something explosive. The studio felt like it had lost all oxygen. The easy smiles were gone, replaced by a sharp electric tension that everyone, hosts, crew, and audience, could feel in their bones. Michael Strahan, ever the professional, leaned forward and tried to regain control, saying calmly, "Samuel, I didn't mean it that way. We're just having a conversation." But Samuel wasn't ready to let it slide. His voice rose slightly, steady yet powerful. "That's the problem, man. It's never just a conversation when the cameras are rolling. You ask real questions, but you don't want real answers." The words hit hard. Strahan paused, clearly caught between defending himself and keeping the show on track. The audience didn't know where to look. Some stared wide-eyed, others whispered nervously. A few even clapped, unsure if this was genuine drama or just brilliant television. But Samuel's tone made it clear this wasn't a performance. He was venting years of frustration, live on air. Strahan tried one last time to redirect. "We respect you, Sam. You've done incredible work." Samuel cut him off. "Then respect means letting me speak instead of steering it when it gets uncomfortable." The words echoed across the studio. For a long moment, there was silence, just the hum of the cameras and the faint shuffle of crew members off stage. Then, without warning, Samuel removed his mic. The gesture was small, but the message was enormous. He stood up, gave Strahan a long, piercing look, and walked off set. Gasps filled the room. The director's voice crackled in the earpieces. Cut to commercial. Cut now! But it was too late. Millions of viewers had already seen it. The confrontation was real, raw, and utterly unforgettable. The moment the show cut to commercial, chaos erupted behind the scenes. Producers were shouting into headsets, trying to figure out what just happened. Camera operators exchanged stunned looks while assistants rushed toward the stage, hoping to calm things down. Michael Strahan sat frozen for a moment, still processing what had just unfolded live in front of millions. He exhaled slowly, knowing this moment would dominate headlines by noon. In the control room, one executive slammed his hand on the console. Did we get that on record? Another voice replied, every second. They all knew, whether they liked it or not, this was going viral. Within minutes, clips of Samuel walking off the set started flooding social media. Viewers who missed the broadcast scrambled to find out what had happened. Hashtags like Samuel vs. Strahan and GMAcklash began trending globally. Some praised Samuel for standing up to what they saw as media provocation, while others accused him of being unprofessional. The internet was split, and every side had its own narrative. Meanwhile, ABC's public relations team went into full damage control. Statements were drafted, edited, and redrafted. Michael, still shaken, returned after the break with a polite smile, pretending everything was fine. "We'll be right back with more from Good Morning America," he said, though his eyes told another story. News outlets picked up the footage instantly. Entertainment reporters called it the most intense moment in morning TV history. Fans began dissecting every frame, every word, every facial expression. What had started as a routine interview had turned into a cultural flashpoint, a public clash between authenticity and image control. And while the cameras stopped rolling, the real storm was only beginning online. In the hours following the explosive broadcast, Good Morning America became the center of a media firestorm. Every major outlet, from entertainment blogs to primetime news, replayed the footage on loop. The clip of Samuel L. Jackson removing his mic and walking off set had already amassed millions of views within the first day. What shocked audiences most wasn't just the confrontation itself, but how raw and unscripted it felt. Morning TV had never looked so real. Michael Strahan, trying to maintain professionalism, issued a brief on-air comment the next morning. "Sometimes emotions run high. We have nothing but respect for Samuel and his incredible career." The statement was polished, diplomatic, and clearly approved by the network. But behind the scenes, insiders revealed that producers were worried about potential fallout, not from Jackson but from the audience. Samuel, on the other hand, didn't stay silent. Later that evening, he took to X, formerly Twitter, posting a single line that sent the internet into frenzy. "If you ask for honesty, don't act surprised when you get it." That one tweet became a rallying cry. Fans flooded his mentions with support, applauding his refusal to play by TV's fake polite rules. Others criticized him for being disrespectful to Strahan. Talk shows, YouTubers, and commentators all weighed in, each offering their own take on what had really happened. But one thing was clear: Samuel's walk-off had reignited a global conversation about authenticity in celebrity culture. Behind closed doors, ABC debated whether to invite him back for a follow-up appearance, but Samuel's camp reportedly declined. For him, the message had already been delivered. He didn't need to apologize. He had said his truth, and the world had listened. As the chaos began to settle, a deeper conversation took shape, one that stretched far beyond the Good Morning America studio. Commentators, journalists, and everyday viewers started asking the same question: when did honesty become controversial? What Samuel L. Jackson had done wasn't just an emotional reaction. It was a statement against the overly controlled, media-polished world of celebrity interviews. Morning shows like GMA were built on charm and predictability, laughter, promotion, and good vibes. But Samuel had cracked that polished veneer, revealing something raw underneath. People began to see the moment not as a meltdown, but as a wake-up call. They talked about how often guests were pushed into awkward corners for viral clips, and how rare it was for someone to call it out live on air. Michael Strahan, too, found himself reflecting. Though publicly composed, those close to him said he was genuinely shaken. not by anger but by realization. He understood that Samuel wasn't just lashing out. He was exposing a truth about how modern media operates. Strahan even hinted at this later in an interview, saying, "Sometimes real conversations don't fit into a segment." The event became symbolic, a collision between authenticity and entertainment. Scholars and media critics dissected it, calling it a defining example of the new reality moment, when scripted TV finally gave way to genuine human emotion. And while the show returned to normal in the following days, it wasn't truly the same. Producers became more cautious, interviewers more aware. In a strange way, Samuel L. Jackson hadn't just walked off a show, he'd walked straight into history, forcing television to look itself in the mirror and ask, "Are we still being real?" Weeks passed, but the shockwaves of that live confrontation refused to fade. The clip continued circulating online, transforming from breaking news into a cultural symbol, one representing unfiltered truth in a world obsessed with polish. Both Samuel L. Jackson and Michael Strahan went quiet for a while, letting the storm burn itself out. But behind the scenes, conversations were happening, private, thoughtful, and surprisingly respectful. It was eventually reported that Strahan reached out personally, not through producers or agents, but directly. His message was simple. No hard feelings, it got real, that's all. Samuel's reply was equally straightforward. "All good, man. Real always shows." That short exchange ended weeks of speculation about bad blood between them. When the two finally crossed paths again at a Hollywood charity event, the cameras caught something unexpected, a handshake and a laugh. No staged apology, no dramatic reunion, just two professionals acknowledging that sometimes the truth hits harder than intended. In the following months, GMA leaned subtly into more candid interviews, embracing moments of sincerity rather than avoiding them. Meanwhile, Samuel's reputation for speaking his mind reached new heights. He wasn't just seen as a movie legend, he became a symbol of fearless authenticity. The public eventually moved on to the next viral moment, as they always do, but this one stayed different. It became part of entertainment lore, replayed every time a celebrity gets real on live TV. The clash had started as an uncomfortable accident, but ended as a reminder of something deeper. Viewers crave honesty more than perfection. And for both Samuel and Michael, that one explosive morning taught them that sometimes losing control isn't failure, it's freedom. Moments like this remind us why live television still matters. It's raw, unpredictable, and unfiltered. What happened between Samuel L. Jackson and Michael Strahan wasn't just a clash of egos. It was a clash of truth versus control, real emotion versus scripted calm. In an era where every second is rehearsed, their exchange cut through the noise, showing audiences what genuine human reactions look like when the cameras are rolling. If you believe honesty and entertainment should never be punished, then this story is for you. It's a reminder that behind the lights, laughter, and celebrity smiles, there are real people who feel, react, and stand up for what they believe in. Samuel's unapologetic authenticity struck a nerve, not because it was controversial, but because it was real. So, what do you think? Was Samuel right to push back, or did Strahan simply do his job as a host? Join the conversation in the comments below and let your voice be heard. And if you want more deep dive breakdowns of the moments that shake Hollywood to its core, subscribe now. Because here we don't just tell stories, we expose the truth behind them.